morning, everyone. So very quickly, 2 questions. I know Siddharth already did his engagement, but 2 questions from my side. We've all heard of data being created. We know it's humongous. You all know the numbers, but a new twist to that. How much data is being created every second per human being? So all the data per second divided by the population of the world. Any guesses? A new data point. So 1.7 MB per second, that's about 147 GB in a day per person, okay? So different data point. Yet an astonishing amount of this data is wasted. Any guesses on that? What percentage of enterprise data is not getting utilized across the world? This you should guess for me. 70, 95, 65, still going. 88. 88. 90 was close. Okay, I have to figure out how this works. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Sachin, for that. So this is what I was covering. So while we're talking about data, I think we want to share with you some snippets from a very large study that was done across the world by IBM. This is a C-suite study. Most of you are familiar with this study. The global data is we've interviewed 13,000 CXOs across the world, 98 countries, 20 industries, and 6 different C-suite functions. There is also an India version of the same study, and I'm going to just present 3 slides from there to tell you that enterprises which use data well, how much ahead are they of the ones that don't use data well. So there are 4 stages of data leadership as per the study that we evolved. 10% of the enterprises in India are what we call torch bearers. They have data, insights from data, utilization of data well integrated into their business model, into monetization of data, into how they do new products and new markets. And the rest, as you see, are explorers, builders, and aspirationals. Aspirational enterprises are at the bottom of the heap. They are still to rise the curve. Now, just to make a point to you, what's the difference between torchbearers and aspirationals in terms of how they're utilizing data and therefore their results? So the torchbearers are delivering exceptional results on the revenue growth side and on the profitability side. And what's the difference? 29% for aspirationals and 80% for torchbearers. That's the kind of difference that you have when you're utilizing data well. And these numbers bear out for across the world. My team is going to tweet out with your hashtag here, the study, the global study. You must have a look at that also. The torchbearers are also able to leverage data for driving innovation and succeed through change. So they're also managing success well. And Kamal, we are going to talk about that a little later in terms of what the torchbearers are doing and what some of the exceptional companies are doing. Right? So they identify unmet needs because they have data availability, and then they are managing change across their companies to deliver the growth that we earlier spoke about. Torchbearers also manage through data to create competitive advantage. They, from data, get new business model ideas, and they are also pursuing data monetization strategies, the holy grail of everybody. If you go through the study, there is a lot of information there for what they're doing on the ecosystem partner side, what they're doing for employees, and what they're doing for clients. So Kamal, with this, let me come to you. Data needs to have inherent value to the organization and should not be considered like a byproduct, of automation that has been done, right? And we see that enterprises begin by leveraging data and making platform choices first, right? Now, can you share some examples of how organizations have made platform choices, thereby they've created new market opportunities for themselves?
Sure. So before I go into the examples, Deepali, and to the audience, I just want to talk about what's changing. So what's changing here? What's changing here is the entire shift and what's the next after digital transformation. That's what we are trying to talk about. If so far we all have been working on digital transformation, it was an outside-in approach. The corporates, the enterprises were looking beyond their own organization, trying to connect digitally to the ecosystem, and in the process, they improved their customer experience, they improved their top lines, bottom lines, and then got all the data inside the organization. This study tells us that that data is lying waste, and it's not being used. Now the time is the next stage, that how do you build a new business models using the data which you have already got. And that's the next stage of evolution, and we call that as cognitive enterprise. There are three stages in this cognitive enterprise, as we call it. First is a choice of platform. So a lot has been spoken here about platforms, and I want to kind of demystify it by saying that there are multiple ways platforms can be built. At the bottom of this, though, equally important, is the platforms where organizations kind of take the entire silos of their own businesses, internal businesses, away and connect the various employees, various departments together, and then bring it on a common platform where they reuse the data which is generated. And that's what we call it as internal enabled business platforms. The other part of business platforms are external platforms, where the enterprises are going beyond their organizations, and while going beyond, they're going outside. There are two parts of, again, the external platforms that we see. One is within the same industry, another is cross industries. The objective here is in both these industry-focused or external-focused business platforms, organizations are creating new markets. New markets, when they look at internal strategic business platforms, it is based on their own core competencies and their own strategic initiatives that they want to drive in the market, the uniqueness which they have. Then how do we take that uniqueness out to the market? The other one is about when they go and co-create the market and expand beyond their industries and go cross-industry. So these are the three different types of platforms the enterprises are supposed to look at, and I will encourage all of you to think within your organization and see how you can take these platform journeys forward. So the next stage is some examples on this, how people have done it. And I'll take a few examples, and I'll just focus mostly on the India examples. This one is a Woodside. It's an Australian energy major. This is the kind of a platform which I was talking about, an internal platform. Energy major has over 30 years of engineering and project data. All the information that they gathered, generated, was lying in the organization. And now they are putting it on an AI, which is powered by IBM's Watson platform. And using that information, the employees are able to make better decisions for the newer projects which they're going into. So this is a place where you have kind of cut across all the information available internally and taking it forward. They're also using similar platforms for their own employees, let's say for their talents, onboarding, and all that. But these are kind of internal platforms. The other example is an IQPO platform. Now, it's a very small company, but I thought it is relevant to bring it to the notice for the fact that it's a new platform where an organization has thought beyond what their current business is. You all know the company called Shrey Infrastructure. They are a leading infrastructure finance company. But being an NBFC, last year they got into a situation where their income from the market was going down because of the liquidity crisis. Now, how do you generate newer business model in such situations? They got in touch with us. We have been working with them in the past. And then we sat together, sieved through their own internal processes, spoke to their ecosystem, with their customers, their vendors, and then, of course, we also did some garage workshops with them. Incidentally, at the same time, Reserve Bank of India came up with a policy of allowing co-lending, and co-lending between banks and NBFCs for infrastructure finance. And we thought probably, why not leverage all that information together and take it to the next level? Now, when we say take it to the next level, we brought all that together, created a marketplace where the equipment manufacturer, the supplier, the financer, the NBFCs, and the banks all come together on the same marketplace and then help create that entire ecosystem, which is co-created out of the newer policies. Now, the fact is, this doesn't stop here. We could have easily given them this simple marketplace, but the fact here is the risk has to be shared between the bank and the NBFCs and very transparently. And then what's the next stage? We are now putting IoT into these. We are putting what we call as a blockchain technologies to authenticate the various financiers as well as the banks into it. So it's creating a layer of transparency. It's creating a layer of newer business models for them, which were not think of. And that's why they are now ready to go to the next stage without worrying about loss of the income because of the change in the economic scenario.
Yeah.
There are other examples as well.
Yeah, I just want to highlight, I think, though Kamal here, that your team really worked with them right from inception, thinking, design, conceptualization, and then actually bringing it to the market. And the other examples that I wanted to give is, okay, the organizations have selected the platforms, okay, how do you make them run? How do you make them successful? How do you get people to use them on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so it's once you've created a platform, you also need to understand what platform is going to do. And we call that the next stage, or next stage of creating a cognitive enterprise is to bring artificial intelligence, things like evolving technologies like blockchain, automation, etc., and we put them all together in what we call it as intelligent workflows. So all the business processes that the organization has, whether they are internal processes or external processes with their customers or the outcomes which they want to generate, they are all rallied around these exponential technologies in what we call intelligent automation and workflows. What it does is it helps generate insights out of the data which is already available, helps your workforce and employees take faster, collaborative decisions, and many a times the decisions are taken on their behalf by the automation engines. Now that's something which is unique, and that's what brings more productivity and solutions out. I'll take another example here. Again, an example where an organization has brought in an intelligent workflow in their business processes. IFCO Tokyo is a general insurance company. Many of us have been customers to them. They process over 100,000 claims a month. And this is purely on auto claims where the damages are assessed. There is a team of 300 plus subject matters, claim assessors, who at the back end look at every claim that comes in, either through a picture or through a statement, many times handwritten statement. Then the surveyors are deployed. Surveyors take their own picture, and then based on their experience, they come up with a damage assessment. What's happening here is they're not able to offer a unique or, let's say, consistent consumer experience. The claims many times are disputed. Many times they over-budgeted. And, of course, the claim turnaround time is very high. So how in this process, how do you bring automation, how do you bring artificial intelligence and exponential technologies in reducing this process? So what we did was we created a claim damage assistant tool for them, which is again powered by IBM's AI technologies. We used advanced computer vision. We used deep neural networks into the assessment of the claims which they had in last many years. We picked up all the pictures, ingested all that data, and came up with algorithms which helped them decide what would be the scope and how can you do a straight-through processing, as we call it in the insurance space, on most of the claims. Now, what has happened here is there is a huge consistency. We have brought over 30 plus car models, various types of damages, colors, various types of assessment models, and it helps them create and do a faster claim processing. And it's the savings out there is almost 30% in their direct cost. But again, this is just the start of a platform. The next stage would be as IoT is coming in. Most of the cars would have IoT devices. In fact, IBM is working very strongly with many other car manufacturers. So you will start seeing IBM-enabled IoT devices out in the market soon. This is a time when your driving behavior on those cars would decide your insurance claims. Now, it's very much there in Europe. It's very much there in advanced markets. It's likely to be here in India too. So this is how you're creating cross-industry platforms now.
So, very insightful, right? But how do we ensure that the management is aligned, right? We're all, we work on this, how do line of business involved, how are the board of directors involved, how are the CEOs involved? Any thoughts on that?
See, it's about how do you take this journey forward. And building a cognitive enterprise is not easy. It has to start from a deep commitment from the senior leadership for investment in resources and investment in their time and investment in their ecosystem discussions. So what we propagate here is what we call it as an IBM garage model. Now, these are the garages which we are setting, co-creating, co-executing, cooperating with our clients. There have been many examples. I'll just take a few examples. Fabric.ai. This is an example of a bestseller. Now, bestseller is a large retailer, Europe-based. In India, you might have seen the brand called Veromoda. We got into a garage model with them, and the picture that you see is actually the picture in their office, where we have set up a garage jointly with them, and all the innovation, ideation discussions happen out there. Once we co-create these innovations and create and go through the problem statements and look at what they are having, we come together as a team, as a squads, and we do these minimum viable products. The objective is scale. Now, a lot of innovations, a lot of experimentations have been done in the last couple of years. I guess now the time has come to convert these innovations into scale model. And then that's where this entire co-execution comes in, where we work with them to help them scale it up. Yeah. In this case, as a bestsellers, we looked into the problem of inventory. Yeah. They had huge challenges, or for that matter, any fashion retailer would have challenges of the stale inventory. And the stale inventory is not easy to predict. What we need to do is probably understand what level of, what's the demand in the market at a store level, at an overall fashion level, in the social media. So we take all structured, unstructured data together. We look at their inventories and help them create what we call it as a merchandising support. So their merchandiser knows ahead of the season what articles, what colors, and what fabrics to be used, which will help them cut down this entire inventory. And it's working pretty successfully. It's probably one of the world's first fabric.ai, which has been launched here in India. So it's not like these are technologies and these patents of IBM are created and used globally, and now it's the time when we are seeing all these patents technologies being invested here in India.
Yeah. We have 30 seconds, Kamal, so you want to tell them about HDFC Life
yes,
very quickly?
Why not? Yeah, so I'll take another example. HDFC Life is a life insurance company. They have approximately, and here again, we have set up a garage, and we are working with multiple use cases. And as we go through the use cases, we filter them down and take it into the next level of either an MVP and a scaling up. This is the case where we are scaled up now. They get approximately 30,000 emails every day. Every month. Apologies. And these emails are of multiple kinds, and it has multiple data. There are questions. The typical turnaround on this email was 2 days to 2 months, sometimes 2 weeks, or sometimes a month. We went through with them, looked at all the different kinds of mails that you get. We ingested that in our AI platforms. And now we are able to help them auto-respond over 70% of their mails. The success rate is 70 to 80%, and the turnaround time is less than 2 hours. So in less than 2 hours, your query gets answered through the system based on the historical trends of what the question carries, and these are pretty accurate. And it took us almost 3 months to get to that level of accuracy, but that's how it is. Now the next level is where we can take a similar technologies. So net-net, what's coming out here is the enterprises are scaling up. Enterprises are taking the journey of exponential technologies forward. And in the new model, what we call it as cognitive enterprise, which is all about ingesting the data, learning from them, and putting it to use and putting it to scale.
Thank you, Kamal, and we have many more examples at our booth. Our teams are here for any one-on-one meetings. Thank you for a patient listening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.